Good morning. If you are going to study a market for a product, you have to study two different sides, supply side and demand side for this product. After studying demand and supply, you have to find how to determine the equilibrium point or how the equilibrium point is going to be determined. Actually, it's going to be determined as the point of intersection of demand and supply, or when quant demanded of a product equals to its quantity supplied. So in order to be able to understand the market for any product, first we have to study its demand. Also, demand has two main sides. The first one is the desire, which means that you would like to buy this product, you want it. And number two, the ability, which means that you have enough money to buy this product. If you have money but you don't want the product, this is not a demand. If you want the product but you don't have money to buy it, so this is not a demand as well. So the two items or the two conditions together are demand. So in order to identify the demand point, to identify consumer behavior, why consumer would like to choose or to buy this amount or this number of units of a product, we have to study desire and factors that affect the desire or preferences, and the ability and factors that affect the ability or budget constraint. So this is known as preferences, and this is known as budget constraint. In our lecture today, we are going to talk about budget constraint. What's meant by budget constraint? In order to understand the meaning of budget constraint, let's assume that, just for simplicity, that the consumer would like to buy two different types of products, or known as bundle of commodity. So the consumer would like to buy consumption bundle, which is X1 and X2. X1, let's say Pepsi, and X2, any other commodity. Actually, in real life, we are not going to buy just two commodities, but for simplicity, we are going to assume that each individual would like to buy just two commodities, X1 and X2. So what's the budget constraint for this consumer? This consumer would like to spend his money income on X1 and X2 based on the prices of each one of them. So if you assume that B1 is price of X1 and B2 is price of X2, and M stands for money income, so the consumer would like to distribute his money income between spending on commodity X and spending on commodity Y. So we can write the budget constraint as B1 x1, which is spending on commodity x1, plus b2 x2, which is spending on commodity x2, should be less than or equal m, which means that you can spend all your money income on x1 and x2, or less than your money income on both of them. So this is spending on x1, and this is spending on x2. For example, if b1 equals 1 LE and b2 equals 2 LE, and your money income is 100, so we can write the budget constraint as b1 x1 plus b2 x2 less than or equal 100, where b1 equals 1, so it's x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal 100. From this equation, you can identify or determine the quantity that would be purchased of x1 and x2. This is the budget constraint. As we said that consumers are not going to buy only two commodities, and we would like to use only x1 and x2 in order to be able to draw the graph for the budget constraint. So we are going to assume that x1 is any commodity, say for example Pepsi, and x2 stands for all other commodities. Now we would like to draw the budget constraint. Budget constraint can be represented graphically using what's known as budget line. So we can write budget line as b1 x1 plus b2 x2 equals m, not less than or equal, it's equals m, as budget line is the set of bundles that cost exactly m. What's meant by budget line or budget constraint? From this equation, we can find number of units purchased from x1 and x2. Returning back to our example, b1 equals 1, b2 equals 2, equals 100. Given that b1 equals 1 and b2 equals 2 and the income equals 100, we can find the different combinations of x1 and x2 that costs exactly 100. For example, if you are going to distribute all your money income in X1, so you can buy X1 plus 2 multiplied by 0 equals 100. So X1 will be 100 and 0x2. If you are going to spend all your money income on X2 and 0x1, so it is 0 plus 2x2 equals 100. So x2 will be 50. So if it is 0x1, it will be 50x2. You can substitute in the equation with different values for x1 and x2 in order to find different combinations that cost 100. Now we can use this equation in order to draw the budget line. Just we would like to rearrange the equation. B1 x1 plus B2 x2 equals M. We would like to find x1 in one side and x2 in the another side. So we can write it as B1 x1 equals M minus B2 x2 divided by B1. So it will be x1 equals M divided by B1 minus B2 divided by B1 x1. So this is the budget line equation. Where M over B1 is the intercept, B2 over B1 is the slope. The relationship is a negative relationship, as if you would like to increase consumption of X2, you have to decrease consumption of X1 and vice versa. Also, we can write it in another form. B2 X2 equals M minus B1 X1 divided by B2, so it's X2 equals M over B2 minus B1 over B2 X2, X1. This is the intercept and this is the slope. Negative sign stands for the negative relationship between quantity consumed of X2 and X1. Okay, let's return back to our numerical example. B1 equals 1, B2 equals 2, M equals 100. If you would like to find the value of X1, it's M divided by B1 minus B2 divided by B1 X2. Using numerical values, X1 equals 100 divided by 1 minus 2 divided by 1 X2. So this is the intercept and this is the slope. Now if you are going to use X2 instead of X1, it will be X2 M divided by B2 minus B1 divided by B2 X1. So it will be X2 100 divided by 2 minus 1 divided by 2 X1. It will be 50 minus half X1. Now we can use equations x1 and x2 to draw the budget line. This is the quantity of x1 and this is x2. The vertical intercept will be m over b2. This is vertical intercept. And this is the horizontal intercept. This means if you are going to substitute in equation 1 by 0 instead of x2, so this means that if you are going to spend 0 on x2, x1 will be 100. So it is 0 and 100. And now we are going to move on to equation number 2. If you are going to substitute instead of x1 by 0, so x2 will be 50. So if you are going to buy 0 x1, you can buy 50 units of x2. Connect the 2 points together. This is the budget line. The slope of this budget line will be negative b1 over b2. And this is known as budget set, which are affordable units. You can buy these bundles. So this is how to drive or how to draw the budget line. But what are the factors that affect the budget line? How the budget line changes. Budget line will be affected mainly by two main factors. Number one, income. If income increases, so the intercept is going to change in both equations. So if income increases, this value is going to increase and this value is going to increase as well. So as a result, the budget line will shift to the right. Returning back to our example, as we said, if income is, if x2 is 0, x1 will be 100. If x1 is 0, x2 will be 50. This is the initial situation. Now let's assume that m increases from 100 to 200. So now we are going to find x1 and x2 once again. So x1 will be 200 divided by 1, which is 200, minus 2 over 1, which is 2, x2. And with respect to x2, it will be 200 divided by 2, which is 100, minus half. This means that the slope is not going to change, but only the intercept will it change. So here if x2 equals 0, so x1 will be 200, 0 and 200. And if x1 equals 0, x2 will be 100, 0 and 100. So this is the new budget line. So as income increases, budget line is going to shift to the right, and vice versa if income decreases. What about the change in the price? A change in the price of only one commodity while keeping the other one and the income fixed. Returning back to the initial situation, B1 equals 1, B2 equals 2, M equals 100. And now let's assume that B1 increases from 1 to 2. This means that the intercept and the slope will change. But only one intercept while the other one is constant. Let's substitute in the two equations. For x1, m is 100 divided by 2 minus 2 divided by 2 x2. So it will be 50 minus x2. So the intercept changes from 100 to 50, and the slope changes from 2 to 1. Now we are going to substitute in x2. x2 will be 100 divided by 2 minus 2 divided by 2x2. So it will be 50 minus x1. So this is equation number 2. The intercept is constant, it's 50, okay, while the slope is going to change. So in this case, if x2 equals 0, x1 will be 50. And if x1 equals 0, x2 will be 50. So this is the new budget line. So if one price changes, there is a rotation from a point, just rotation, while this point is constant. So it is movement from one point or rotation from a point. And this means that the slope of the budget line will be steeper or flatter. So in this case, as good one becomes more expensive as its price increases from 1 to 2. So the budget line becomes steeper. Okay, now let's sum up in Arabic. احنا دلوقتي بالنسبة لنا كل اللي عملناه ان احنا بنتكلم على الديماند والسبلاي اللي كنا اتكلمنا عنهم قبل كده، بس المرة دي بنركز على الديماند اكتر. بنقول ان الديماند هو desire وابيليتي، هو حاجة انا عاوز اشتريها ومعايا الفلوس ان انا اشتريها. فالمحاضرة دي هنركز على البادجت constraint، او ان انا هشتري الحاجة دي، يعني you have enough money to buy or not. طيب احنا for simplicity هنفترض ان الناس هتشتري two commodities بس، x1 و x2، وكده يبقى ما يبقاش عندي غير two different prices b1 و b2. والإنكم بتاعي we can write the budget constraint as b1 x1 plus b2 x2. اما بقول b1 x1 يعني انا بقول مثلا انا هشتري 10 يونت من x1 ده، الواحده بجنيه، يعني انا هصرف على x1 10 جنيه. b1 x1 هو ده اللي انا هصرفه على x1، فبقول عليها spending on x1. b2 x2 برضو spending on x2. السمشن بتاع السباندنج on x1 و x2 ده المفروض ان هو يبقى قد الانكم بتاعي او اقل منه، مش هينفع يبقى اكتر منه. طيب بعد كده عملنا نيوميريكال اكزامبل كده، ان احنا قلنا ان b1 لو افترضنا ان هو بجنيه وال2 ب2 والام بتاعي 100، هيبقى شكل البادجت كونسترينت A هيبقى x1 plus 2x2 less than or equal 100. طيب هل انا في الحقيقه بشتري 2 commodities بس؟ لا، انا عندي commodities كتير، فبقول ان انا for simplicity انا مهتم بان انا ادرس ماركت بتاع ايه، انا بشتغل على مايكرو، فانا مهتم ان انا ادرس commodity بتاعت حاجه واحده. نفترض البيبسي، يبقى انا هقول ان الاكس 1 هي البيبسي والباقي كل الحاجات التانية هي اكس 2. طيب انا ما يهمنيش الليس ذان اور ايكوال، احنا عاوزين نرسم حاجه اسمها بادجت لاين. البادجت لاين ده هو ان انا اصرف الفلوس اللي معايا، يعني السبندنج على الكوموديتيز دي يبقى هو بالظبط الانكم بتاعي. يعني بدل ما بقول less than or equal هنخليها equal بس. غيرنا شكل الايكويشن شويه بان انا قلت بدل ما هي b1 x1 plus b2 x2 equals m، احنا هنحط الاx1 على x والاx2 على y او العكس، مش هتفرق. فانا عاوز يبقى ناحيه من الايكويشن فيها x1 والناحيه التانية فيها x2، فعملنا بس شويه ايه بلس وديفيجن وكده بحيث ان احنا نغير شكلها. فبقى عندي x1 equals m divided by b1 minus b2 divided by b1 x2. فقسمناها intercept وسلوب. الانترسبت ده معناه ايه؟ معناه لو x2 بزيرو الx1 هتبقى بكام؟ بالفاليو بتاعت الانترسبت. وعملنا نفس الكلام، خلينا الx2 هي اللي في ناحية والx1 هي اللي في ناحية تانية. طيب نطبق الكلام ده على الاكزامبل بتاعنا. احنا هنا بنقول ان m divided by b1 ب 100، وبعدين عملنا b2 اللي هي 2 divided by 1 ب 2 x2. فبقول ال 100 دي معناها ايه؟ معناها ان لو الاكس 2 بزيرو هشتري كام يونت من x1؟ هشتري 100. وعملنا نفس الكلام للاكس 2، لو الاكس 1 بزيرو هشتري كام يونت؟ هشتري 50 يونتس. عملنا الكلام ده جرافيكال. بعد كده شفنا ايه هي الفاكتورز اللي بتأثر على البادجت لاين. فكان عندنا نمبر 1 الانكم، لو حصل تشينج في الانكم بيحصل شيفت للبادجت لاين، فلو زاد هيبقى to the right ولو قل هيبقى to the left. واخر حاجة عندنا حصل تشينج في البرايس، فده بيخلي يحصل rotation from a point، انما مش هيحصل شيفت لللاين كله، هو هيبقى steeper او flatter، يعني هيتغير السلوب بتاعه وهيتغير في بوينت واحدة بس، يعني انترسبت واحد بس مش الاتنين هيتغيروا. ده كده اخر اللي احنا اتكلمنا عنه النهاردة. شكرا، اشوفكم الاسبوع الجاي ان شاء الله. Thank you.